everybody. Welcome back to our final series of videos from this project, the Co-Creating Sustainable Food Supply Chains project. I'm talking with each of the hubs to hear a little bit about how their experience was during the project over the course of these 3 years, what they learned, and some things that were successful and some challenges. So I have two representatives from the Turkish team here. We can start with Eileen Topal, and you can give me a little bit of a background on the project from your team, who was involved, who was on the team, and a little bit about the community partner you worked with, and then Zure, you can go next.
Okay, thank you very much. On the academic side, we had two teams from two universities. I'm a faculty member of Political Science and Public Administration at Middle East Technical University, and I served as the primary investigator from METÜ. And a PhD student from my department, Işıl Servetoğlu, was the doctoral fellow under this project. I will leave the introduction of the Boğaziçi research team to Zühre, but I should also add, we also had one project employee, Çiğdem Adem, who was affiliated with METÜ during many months of the project. So I'm skipping the Boğaziçi University part. With regards to the other teams, with regards to the community partners and other stakeholders, we had, compared to the other teams, we had several community partners. The most central one was a consumer cooperative based in Istanbul called Clean Harvest. In addition to Clean Harvest, there was another Istanbul-based consumer cooperative. It was the consumer cooperative of the Boğaziçi University members. Perhaps I should leave that part also to Zühre. In addition to these two consumer cooperatives, we had three producers cooperatives. One of them was in Ankara, and they were focused on greens and vegetables mostly. And the other two was based on Izmir. One was specialized in olive, and the other one is an olive oil and olive products in general. And the other one is an umbrella organization, again based in Izmir, with dozens of producers cooperatives under its institutional umbrella. And we had also one ecological preservation cooperative based in Antalya. That was also an important aspect of the cooperatives framework, ecological sustainability framework. So that is, as far as I remember, that's a little bit of an addition to the project from the Turkish side. Mm-hmm. And in addition to these cooperatives, we had two municipalities, Izmir and Antalya municipality, as the community partners, and the Citizens Council of Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality was also one of our central community partners. And you asked a little bit about the focus area and our intervention. Our focus area was very simply to strengthen the network of Clean Harvest cooperative, consumer cooperative. I chose deliberately to say network rather than chain, because it is, creating a network, support network from producers to consumers of the cooperative. So it has to be, when we talk about cooperatives, I think the chain analogy should be replaced with a network analogy, which is more, collaborative, I think. So we had two interventions, more or less two interventions. One was focused on Istanbul, Temiz Asat, as I said, and working with them and making their jobs more meaningful and impactful. And the other one was focused on Izmir, bringing together with different meetings, bringing together our stakeholders and to a closer relationship with each other and with the municipalities. So I should stop here and leave the word to Zühre.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Aylin. Well, yes, so the Boğaziçi component of the project is made of mainly Fikret Adaman from the Department of Economics, who is the principal investigator in the project, and I'm Zühre Aksoy, a researcher from the Department of Political Science and International Relations. And we also had a doctoral fellow, a PhD student, Hazal İnce, who also worked similar to Işıl, as Aylin was mentioning. So we are the second, let's say, academic partner in the project. And in terms of the practice partners, Aylin was referring to Temiz Asat, which is the principal, of course, practice partner. But I would like to say a few words about BÜKOOP, Boğaziçi Members Consumer Cooperative, which was also a partner in the project. Because this is one of the earlier examples of a consumer co-op in a big city, which has provided a significant model for the later established consumer cooperatives throughout the big cities in Turkey. So in that sense, it's a small cooperative, but it has been successful in terms of being able to establish or rethink these rural-urban relations, which is very much what the project is also about, and what Aylin was talking about in terms of the intervention to strengthen the network that is crucial between these different types of cooperatives. And I think it's also important, if I can add perhaps to that, we see a very significant proliferation of these cooperatives, food cooperatives in, starting from 2010 onwards. So in that sense, Temiz Hasat, Clean Harvest, is also a very important, of course, example of those established consumer cooperatives. Yeah, that's, I think, what I would say.
That's great. One thing I'll mention is in this project at the end, we're putting together these policy papers and some white papers, some policy recommendations. And the Turkish team, the number of logos in this document takes up the first half of the first page, because you have really done a good job in bringing in so many, local practice partners from across you have different sort of geographic hubs and then types of actors. So it's just really cool to see, talking about your comment, Eileen, about the network. It really is a network, and it's many of these actors are connected to other actors in multiple ways. So that's wonderful. That's a wonderful part of the Turkish hub. Okay, so reflecting back over the 3 years, we had a sort of formal interview with you, Eileen, at the beginning of the project, with our filmmaker. And when you said we're talking about your expectations for the project, you said one of our main objectives through the project will be to support local administrations, to form citizen councils, and to connect those food councils with the cooperative network in those regions. So the big picture goal is to see food councils for every city, not only citywide, but by ecological borders. So, and you said this is my picture of a utopia, hopefully a real utopia. So I wonder, obviously very big picture goal, but how does that compare with how the project actually worked in your two cases? Maybe I'll have Zühre go first. Did we move in the right direction toward building out some of these networks and connections?
I think there has been a very important context that was enabled in terms of these different forms of cooperatives to come together and learn from one another, and also see that they are sharing a lot of common challenges in the context of agricultural policies, in the context of, the economy. So in that sense, learning from these experiences has been a very important part throughout these 3 years that we have been working with these partners. At the same time, of course, challenges remain, as we are talking about, because we cannot think of these cooperatives as isolated from the broader social, economic, and political context. But we are also, we were able to see, I think this is a very important part of it, that there are very significant lessons that each cooperative's experience is showing us in terms of the hope that one can provide towards more solidarity-based and a kind of justice-based understanding of this rural-urban relations between the food cooperatives on the one hand and the producer cooperatives in rural areas, that is very much based on supporting one another. That was a very valuable, I think, let's say, achievement that we can think of. But maybe I will leave a little bit harder part to Eileen in terms of the challenges that we need to also speak.
Well, yes, I am still there in terms of the projections, in terms of the ideals, and I still think that these are real utopias. These are not only possible, but they are preferable. So they are real in that sense. But however, it has been very challenging, given the economic uncertainties and political turbulence in the country. Well, we have to mention that the Turkish economy has been experiencing a long-lasting stagflation. And this stagflation affected very badly the cooperatives and smaller actors in the market, and especially those who have pre-purchase guarantees for the producers. Temiz Hasat was one of them. So, in addition to that, rent inflation has been deadly for small producers, because the rents of their stores was, sort of siphoning off most of their revenue, most of their income. So, unfortunately, throughout our project term, Temiz Hasat couldn't resist more. And it was last summer, summer of 2025, they decided to close the cooperative and their activities. So this was, we have not stopped, our endeavors. We have not stopped our research. So we try to take this as a learning experience, and continue to interact with them. And even I will probably say more in the later parts of the interview. But we have even contacted their producers and tried to see how they were doing after Temiz Hasat has completed or has closed down. And also we have to at least mention the political turbulence in the country. So since the beginning of the, it was, I think, a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, there has been some operations, political operations, and municipalities were at the target of it. And it was, unfortunately, we had Izmir, Antalya, and Istanbul municipalities, and the mayors were from the opposition political party, and those municipalities were the ones, among others, were the ones, there were allegations, and the mayors were arrested, and they are being trialed. So, and there are a lot of discussions around the nature of their allegations and how, to what extent those allegations were sustained with concrete evidence. So leave that part aside. So those political turbulence was also a big challenge for our research. While we were trying to, improve the relations between cooperatives and municipalities, each side of the equation were sort of struggling for different reasons. So it was, for our job, it was really a lot of challenge in that respect.
This is, yeah, I think your case study is really interesting, especially when we're trying to build these more resilient food systems, these more resilient networks, and you're in the middle of crisis. I mean, one crisis after another, and it's obviously a huge challenge, but I find also very inspiring the steadfast dedication to these real utopias in the midst of those challenges. I think that's really really beautiful, and how we all, I think, need to proceed in the coming decades. So, okay, in the original interview, you said also, Eileen, just on a practical level, you'll be working with these cooperatives, working to strengthen their organizational capacities, their marketing capacities, networking capacities, in addition to the cooperatives who are working with the municipalities, the local level authorities. So maybe just talk to me a little bit about how this went in reality, the working together, maybe some stories of successes of how this worked during the project. I don't know which one of you wants to go first, maybe Eileen.
Well, I think I have answered partially this in the previous answer, but we have worked, despite all those difficulties, despite all those challenges, we have worked together with cooperatives and municipalities. We kept our communications, we kept our collaborations, and we informed one about the other in terms of the challenges. We talked about the urgency of collaboration. So, in terms of the cooperatives, we had organized one, and also for the municipalities. It was a little bit of a launching meeting, but it was also a visioning and workshops. So, in that visioning workshops, all those stakeholders, partners, practice partners were invited to Metu, and we had a 1 day long event all together. We were 30 of us, sometimes more than one representative from a partner. So it was very fruitful. Those connections have continued. Some of the cooperatives have met each other for the first time. They had heard about the other, but had not met earlier. And so those connections have continued. We have organized another meeting in Izmir last summer, and a couple of other meetings in Istanbul. So those connections were, some of them were absent, some of them are weaker. So what we have done, we mediated between them, and we hope that those connections, those relations, will continue with or without us.
Zure, anything to add on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly as Irene has said, one of the things that I found also to be very important is with Clean Harvest, even at the time of their closure, as we were discussing that, one of the things that they were saying is they have kind of started to view this as having achieved their mission, what they had come together for in the first place. And these challenges, obviously, I mean, they were very important in terms of making them, come to this very hard decision to close. But at the same time, they were able to see that with some of their partners, producer cooperatives, that they have been able to make certain important progress, which we also were able to observe in a field work that we conducted afterwards. What I was going to say, perhaps kind of linking to, the previous points that we made about the challenges, these cooperatives have been quite resilient for a certain period of time, particularly during the pandemic, for instance. I mean, I'm thinking of, again, Clean Harvest and how they were very passionate about, being able to, provide food and maintaining food access to the communities that were purchasing from them, and also going back, of course, to the producers. Also, in terms of the solidarity packages during the earthquake period, which Turkey, southeastern part of Turkey, went through a very devastating earthquake. I mean, in that sense, the spirit of solidarity was very vivid in Temisasat. What I feel like is through these networks, through these bringing together, in which as the project partners, we played a significant role, seeing that base has been a very important motive to move forward, perhaps reshaping their, let's say, vision for the future, but with, very, of course, strong principles of collaboration and how collective work can actually produce very important outcomes. Both for the producer and also the consumer end. So yeah, that's I think what I'm going to add.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's your case is such an extreme example of so many overlapping challenges, but then just to see that still, despite all of that, there is this inspiring story of people coming together and forming some solidarity networks. In the United States, a lot of sort of small food type organizations, cooperatives, small farms, a lot of people lost funding as the Trump administration came in, and this is the same kind of story of people coming together and building networks, solidarity, and seeing how they can support each other. So I love to see these similar kinds of stories, happening all around the world. Having done this project, now that, yes, please.
Could I add a couple of things?
Yes.
It is, a bit of sort of confirmation of the network analogy rather than chain. For instance, Temisasat, closed down its operations, but the producers of Temisasat, we visited them. It is in the northeast of Turkey, and we observed that women are still active in agricultural production. Those were the women beginning the agricultural production with the motivation, with the push of the Temisasat in the beginning. So that agent, the Temisasat, was absent, but the network was still there. And they were, when we went there, when we visited them and talked to them, we saw the motivation, continuing motivation, and they were trying to find different marketing options. They were selling their produce at the local producers' markets. So these are the support networks. Even if one agent, one node is absent, there are other ones. So it is not like a chain analogy that when one link breaks, the whole chain breaks up. So those the community, the support community was, of course, there are challenges. There are different ways to to recuperate, but it is not like one link disappears and the whole chain disappears. So it was as a surprising, it was a positive observation I had. And another thing, we had a webinar on the role of municipalities. And in that webinar, we invited Izmir municipality. And we asked them to talk about the role of municipality in supporting cooperatives. And we had that event, and the event was very successful. So it is also a pleasing observation that Izmir municipality, despite a lot of pressures on them, continue to support cooperatives by buying their products, by marketing them in Izmir stores, Izmar they call it, and maintaining the collaboration between the cooperatives despite everything.
That's so good. I think that's super inspiring. So finally, thinking about you sort of already answered this question, the most pleased and surprised about from this project. Finally, when we're thinking about sort of next steps for either your research or food system transformation more broadly, where are you thinking about sort of next steps? It seems like from what you've already said that you built out these networks. The networks are, independently existing of your facilitation, which is great. I'd like to hear more about what you're sort of envisioning as how are these networks going to persist or continue?
So our next step is probably not different from our previous step. Because sometimes you stay wherever you are with the current. So it is. I hope I would say we have progressed in our project, but the urgencies are still there. The needs are still there. Some of the urgencies are probably even felt stronger. So we have, for instance, from my perspective, I have seen even stronger the need for cooperation. So cooperation is not a business model; it's an ideal. It is a logic of policy making. It is a logic of policy implementation. So it should be the central idea of agri-food governance. So if you're asking the next steps, if you're asking the next ideas, I should push for more intergovernmental relations, more cooperative intergovernmental relations when it comes to food, agriculture, climate. These are not political issues. These are humanitarian issues. So there has to be a complete cooperation without any second thought with regards to supporting each other. So that has to be really pushed forward. That idea of this is the urgent need of the humanity. This has to be extra political. This has to be about party politics. So that is one sort of aspect that we should push for. And secondly, local governments, they have to be very stronger. That this is also what we have seen in the past year in Turkey. So we have to make them more connected. Local governments should be more connected for resilience, also for any kind of resilience, for ecological resilience, political resilience, economic resilience. So for that purpose, I have learned during this project a lot about bioregions, ecoregions ideas. So I had an initial idea, and I also said this in our first interview, but seeing this in Slotelje in Sweden made us more aware of the fact that ecological borders should determine the policy making and implementation. So municipalities with the same water basin should combine their food councils. Those we have to question the borders, administrative borders, and we have to take the ecological borders as policy making and implementation. And this should apply to food councils and food committees, any kind of policy making and implementation at the local level. So this is what I would push for in the next projects, or even from today to the end of the project, more resilient municipalities for a just, sustainable transition.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I'm really glad that you mentioned the Swedish case, because one thing they mentioned in their final interview is just the importance of cooperation across these various either municipalities or groups. I mean, they're doing this eco district, and it's sort of like this independent thing, but they don't really connect that much with other municipalities who might be interested in doing this kind of thing. So instead of each of us independently working on these ideas and having to independently figuring it out, to sort of share these insights across is so important and so impactful.
Those lab idea should not be oasis. It should not be like autarkies. So those labs, our interventions should be more expanded and the wider scope as much as possible, practical terms.
Yes.
But this gave me this idea that taking municipality as a given category at the local level is perhaps needs to be questioned in that sense.
And I love this. I think it's a very sort of cutting edge innovation to start thinking about watersheds or bioregions. And we are all impacting this particular watershed, so we need to be thinking both on the state level, on various municipalities, and like in the United States on the county level, and each little town, everybody is contributing to this bioregion, so everybody should be brought together as common stakeholders. Zure, we are finishing up talking about next steps for food system transformation more broadly, or next steps for continuing the work of transforming the food system, if you have any thoughts.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about this technical problem. I think there is so much that could be done. And that is in the process, actually, of being done. In addition to what Irene was saying, I think one very important issue is to think of the linkages, both between different local level, let's say, relations, but also transcending that perhaps between the local, national, and also global level linkages, in a way that makes it possible for those solidarity-based economic cooperative forms to learn from one another, and be also able to perhaps join their forces in the midst of the challenges that they are facing. So in that sense, for a transformative perhaps system in terms of food, what seems to be very important is to realize in the first place that we need to consider food sovereignty as a key anchor, not only in terms of equitable access to food, which is of course a very basic and completely the most important issue here, but also how food is produced and how there is this network which is bringing this food to the very end, the consumer end. And to exercise for the people some form of control over their choices of what they want to produce and what they want to eat. and be informed also about all these processes. So, I think the cooperatives, both the producer and consumer cooperatives, are very important actors who could realize this knowledge exchange in the first place, but also become places where a much more just and affordable and equitable food system can be established. One issue is scaling up these initiatives, which is a very important issue, because for most of the time what we do observe is we are talking about small scale, of course, actors here. But at the same time, growth should not be at the expense of leaving the cooperative principles that make very much those organizations what they are. So thinking about scaling up in such a way that will reinforce those cooperative principles and not become yet another player in the global marketplace. So being aware, I think, of that possibility is, very important for the transformative, let's say, process.
Wonderful. Anything else that I didn't ask that you feel like would be nice to sort of say out loud or get on the record before we wrap up our final interview from your Turkish team? Any other thoughts?
I would like to add one aspect. Yes, we are the Turkish team. We our responsibilities to conduct our research and intervention in Turkey. But being together with those four other cases, four other hubs, I think from my point of view, I have seen clearer what is happening in Turkey in comparison with the others. So having those projects with multiple partners from sometimes different, significantly different context shows you that despite those contextual differences, certain global problems repeat themselves in different forms. They may look like very sui generis. They may look like, as if they are sort of locally contextualized. But when you see the similar problem taking place in Taiwan, Thailand, and agents having perhaps sometimes similar strategies, so it gives you that idea that they are connected. Those problems are connected, and solutions should be connected as well.
Zure, final word?
Well, I totally agree in the sense that there has been so many, I think, in comparison, this comparison has enabled us to see how there are many similarities, but also, of course, many contextual differences, and giving us hope in a way. Of the future that cooperative model can offer towards sustainability in the food system in the first place, regardless of the contextual differences that we can identify. I'm very hopeful in that sense. And the project, I learned a lot during the whole time period of the project.
Yeah, I think for me as an observer across the different hubs and helping to communicate some of the findings, it's been really inspiring to see some of these similarities, what is in common, and this sort of a fight fight, common fight towards a real utopia, to bring that theme back. Thank you both so much for taking the time to share your reflections.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we'll be in touch in the future. We'll see how things go.
Yeah, that would be great, really.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that will be wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Ashley. Thank you.